Alright, hello and welcome everybody back to the Flight Sim Fan video. Today we're back in the CRJ-900. Our next tutorial series today is FMS setup. It'll be the full setup of the FMS, how to set up for a flight plan that we would in real life. And I should mention I'm using the Boris sound mod. It's a pre-released sound mod that I'm using, so it's not finalized, but anything you hear, if you like the way it hears, or like the way it sounds, that's the mod that's doing its trick. And I'm also using FS Realistic, so some of the shaky cockpit footage or something like that, I'm using FS Realistic for that as well. So let's jump in and we'll get started. So we're sitting in the right seat of the RJ, and I'll mention that my monitor is it's an ultra wide, so I'm trying to film this in 1920 as best I can and hope that you can see everything. I'm just going to check that what I see is pretty close to what you guys see. Cool. I've gotten set up in the flight compartment's all completed, so we're just kind of sitting and going to be starting to do our FMS initialization and setup. So we'll use the right hand one. The first thing we're going to do is click index. And before we touch anything, we're going to FMS control. We're going to make sure these are synced. You don't want to see independent, because anything I do on this FMS won't be synced. And that FMS, for example, if I did Toronto to Montreal and did my whole route, executed it, I'd be blank on this side. So we want to verify that it's synced. We're syncing the FMS one. So that's good. Next, go to status. You'll verify that your Navidad is in date. And on the next page, you'll have the type of airplane, engine type, everything there. That's all good and sim-wise. Then we're going to go to position initialization. And we're going to go to the next page. GNSS 1 position, we'll grab that. Previous page, throw it in there. And that's it for that. Next, I should comment, some people put YYZ here. You can do that, but it does really nothing. All that's going to do is give you the coordinates of CYYZ, but we want our exact coordinate of our parking spot, which the GPS has on the next page. So that does really nothing for you. But as an added note, people do that, you don't have to. Lastly, real world, we check our IRSs here and our VOR. They're all green. GNSS enabled, green. Everything's enabled, and that's great. Now we'll go to the flight plan page. So the FMS has been initialized, and our IRSs are they're already aligned. Part of the originating checks is before you do that setup is verifying that the IRS switches are in the nav position. That's from our that's from the power up section. So now it's part of the FMS, the route building. Let me make sure you can see. Sorry, I should probably do that. Alright, so now we're doing the route. So we're going from Toronto to Montreal. Toronto is CYYZ. We'll execute that to CYUL. And we'll execute that. And you can still see good. Our alternate is Ottawa, CYOW. And our flight number would be entered here for Jazz specifically. If it's a four number identifier and it starts with an 8, we just put the 3 numbers. For example, if our flight number is 8550, we would actually just put 550, and that would go in there. You'll see 550 there. We'll execute that, and you'd also get it flight number up there. And we also have it in our plane down here, but this one doesn't replicate the other section of that. So now it's time to put in the route. The route is the dead key 5 departure, the Miglo transition, and the Habs arrival. So departure arrival page, dead key 5 departure. You'd have to pick a runway at this point. If you don't know, you can leave it blank and do it later, but I'd recommend getting the ATIS. Find your runway, ATIS in clearance if you can. Find your runway in use, just so it's all kind of done and ready for you to use. So today with live weather, we're using 2-3 for departures. So I'll select next page, 2-3. We're going dead key 5 to runway 2-3, and we're exiting the departure via the Miglo transition. We'll execute that. Departure arrival once again. We're going to arrive in Montreal. We're arriving via the HAB 7 arrival, Miglo transition into the arrival off on onto 24 right. I'll go ahead and execute that. Click flight plan, dead key 5 to dead key. Dead key Shannon, HAP 7 Miglo, that's all perfect. We'll go to legs, you can see a bit better here. This has the departure in here. If you had the chart, it would read runway 23, heading up 237 until 1100 feet. Once you're past 1100 feet, turn to 245, vectors for Sabre on course. So we don't copy and connect this just yet. We don't get rid of that discontinuity because that's there. If I go to the departure chart, that's there for a reason, and that's because it's a vectored SID. As Navigraph loads up here, I'll go to SIDs. Dead key 5 from runway 23. So you can see that here, hopefully. Yes, you can. You can see here that it has runway 237, 1100 feet, right turn 245, and then it's open to ATC to vector use. So we can't just connect that route if you're flying on VATSIM in real life because you need to get vectored and expect vectors to Sabre on course. You can read the little blurb down here, and that'll tell you what to do. Also, that visual, that representation will tell you as well, but expect radar vectors to Sabre, which is what we have. We have vectors, right? We're anticipating vectors at this point will be heading mode, and then the Sabre. Okay, so that all looks good. We're checking all the restrictions. So Shannon actually does have a restriction in it. And if I go here to the chart, you'll see Shannon, aircraft flying above flight level 250 must be at 250 or above. So we can actually add that. It should be there by default, but we'll put 25,000 above. There you go. So now the VNAV system knows we need to cross Shannon at or above 25,000. We would check our, because we have the arrival in now as well, we would check our altitudes there. You can either, if it's a short flight, you can do it now. If it's a long flight, you can do it in cruise as well. So we'll just do it on the way. We have a bit of time. Yeah, so we'll go back to flight plan. We're going to click perf init. What I've gone ahead and done is put our fuel in there, and I got that from the ICAS number 1 here, total fuel 9860. Our zero fuel weight will be on the iPad tablet. In real life, we'd get a something called an LDF. It's like a load sheet, pretty much. And you'll see here zero fuel weight. I haven't changed anything, so it's default numbers. It's 62544. 62544. Zero fuel weight. And what that does is it goes zero fuel weight is passengers, pilot, crew, bags, everything you can think of the airplane except for fuel. Then we've added the fuel weight, and it comes to us with a gross weight, so a maximum or a total weight. We're flight level 350, so F350, alternate 150. Okay, next page. This is the page you'd put in your ISA deviation on the middle left side here, and your climb, cruise, and descent winds if you had them. I don't actually have access to them right now. But for example, if we had a headwind, let's say we had a 20 knot headwind on climb, it would show up in the flight plan as a -20. Let's say we had a 20 knot tailwind in cruise, it would show up like that. That's how you'd put those in. -20 for headwinds, slower, +20 for tailwinds, faster. That's how you would put those in there. Apparently you can't clear them out in this one, so they're going to stay. ISA deviations, if you're deviating from ISA conditions, and we only have that for cruise, you would just simply put the number. If it's a minus, instead of putting M now, you actually have to click the plus minus once more, and then you get a minus number. For example, that's how you enter -2. We'll execute that for today. Next page is actual performance, it's still performance page, initialization number 3. You have the reserves at the top left, which you would cross-check with your flight plan, and then the taxi fuel there, usually about 400 pounds for Pearson. On the flight plan's what they say, and then estimated time of departure, you'd get your off time, and looking like 17:15, we'll probably be departing at 17:30. You just read that from your flight plan. I'm just making this stuff up right now. Okay, VNAV setup. So notice how these screens just lead you to the next. The only thing in performance that's left to do would be clicking performance and setting a flex temperature. If you had one for that day, you'd have to get it from your takeoff report. And then checking fuel management, verifying we're in predicted mode, not measured for performance of fuel. And there's two ways you could check that. You can check it here, or you can check it, if I set this up on, I'll do that in a second. I'll show you what I've done. But you can check, it should say actually measured. So it doesn't do this in the sim. But in real life, when you go to measured mode on the FMS like that, it'll actually say measured right here. So I guess there's only one way in the sim, but there's two ways in real life to do that. Go back to predicted. And yeah, so now we'll go to VNAV. So VNAV setup. User climbs are 280/0.77 for the climb. Execute that. Transitions 18 in the States and Canada, so that's all good. Until you go north, pretty far north. You'd have a cruise speed in here, so on the flight plan, if you're using SimBrief, look at the waypoint just below top of climb, and you can get your airspeed / Mach number. So for example, if it said like 263/0.74, you'd look at the SimBrief flight plan. It'll say TOC, top of climb. In the giant list of waypoints, it'll say TOC. And just below TOC, you can find your next waypoint in the list, and it'll have a speed and Mach number associated with it. You put that in there. Lastly, VNAV page, we'll use 4 degrees on our descent. We'd like 4 because it enables usually an idle descent. In real life, it's about 3,000 feet per minute or so. It doesn't mean we're going to do it, but it just enables idle descents. That's what the top of descent will be predicting, is a 4-degree descent, not a 3-degree descent. When we go to radio, we'll verify that our frequencies are set up. So at Pearson, we will set manual frequencies, and just because a lot of the engine up procedure stuff has this VOR allocated with it, so we'll use that. For sim-wise, you can honestly keep them auto, but we'll do what we do. So there's that. While I'm here, if I've gotten the clearance, I type in my squawk code. So whatever the squawk happens to be, you put it in there, and you'd always verify that it did change on the radio stack there. ATC1 5254. Anything else you want to set up there, feel free. Clearance, frequency, ATIS, ramp, coordinator, whatever you like to set up. You can change the radios all from the FMS, or you can do it from the tuning unit. Then we're going to go to MFD menu, and we're going to set up our screen. So this is kind of like a screen setup. So you can see here, if I click all of these on, you can see how clustered the FO's side gets, and that's because I'm on the right side. So the ones I like are, let's turn all this off, speed, altitude, missed approach, and then range outsol. That's will tell you, that's a little purple banana telling you when you're going to be at a certain altitude, climbing and or descending. It'll give you a visual representation. So pilot flying, we'll always get VNAV. We're flying from the right seat, so VNAV on the pilot flying side. Left side gets on, so they get this this fuel information here. So that's the VNAV section and the fuel section. So that's predicted fuel. When we land in Montreal, we'll have 5,770 pounds, and we're starting with almost 10,000. So almost half, give or take. That's set up. We'd go flight plan, copy active, and that just saves it to our secondary flight plan in case we lose this one or we need to do something else. And this would be completed. The other pilot, whoever wasn't setting this up, would take the flight plan and look through all these numbers and verify that everything is set properly. And again, we would set our flex temp is when we got our takeoff performance. If we do not set a flex temperature, if you saw my first takeoff and takeoff setup, or if you saw my first video and takeoff setup, we covered flex temperature, what it is and what it does. We would be in rated thrust, 87.6. So full maximum thrust for the takeoff. For full toga power for takeoff, I should say. Takeoff thrust. Not max power, but once we go to toga, we'll be in the maximum rated thrust. We can derate that thrust by putting a flex temperature in. So for example, 42. I think that actually went up. You should go down, but yeah. anyways, the rated will be always usually higher than the flex. Should be higher than the flex. But either way, that's fine. You can put a setting in there. We usually live in the 30s to 40s, so it really just depends on the temperature of the day, the airport you're taking off from, the density, altitude, the runway length, all sorts of different conditions. So it just depends. And I don't know if there's actually any RJ calculator out there. Like maybe if someone wants to link one, if there's like a flex calculator that you can use. But, for sims, anyways. So that's all good there. And we'd leave this on legs. We'd leave the other guy's FMS on legs, and now the FMS is considered set up. So that's it. Flight plan page. Fill in all the empty boxes. Depart arrival page. Departure runway. Click it again. Throw your arrival in there. You might not have to put your runway right away, but it's a 45-minute flight, so mine's pretty quick. If yours is more than an hour and a half, I'd probably wait, get to ATIS when you're a bit closer, do it in flight. Then we go to the perf page. Again, filling in the fuel, 0 fuel weight, altitudes, ISA and winds, estimate time of departure. You don't really do that in sim, to be honest, but it's a nice habit to get into. Taxi fuel reserve, flex temperature if you have it. Make sure advisory VNAV is enabled. Verify and predicted. Should be in the sim, shouldn't change. Set your climb speed 287.7. Cruise speed, whatever you'd like. It's no auto throttle, so you can change this on the fly, literally. Descent 4.0. Radio frequencies, or leave them in auto. Set up your screens. VNAV pilot flying side. So if you're flying from the left, you'll have VNAV like this. And the other guy would go to on. So one has VNAV, one has on. Pilot flying, whoever's flying from their side, will have VNAV. That's it. Flight plan, copy active. And that is all. So hope you guys enjoyed this video on the CRJ-900. There's more to come. And we'll see you in the next video. Please like, comment, subscribe.